Welcome into PFF's 2-Minute Drill. Austin Gayle here with my guys Eric Eager and Jeremy Conn, host of 105.7 The Fan there in Baltimore, covering the Ravens. I'm glad we've got you on because we have some Earl Thomas news. Unfortunately, his brother not involved in this news, just him and Chuck Clark after an altercation at practice. Obviously, the Baltimore Ravens terminated his contract. He's no longer in Baltimore. Let's talk about this first. I think with Earl Thomas, there's a lot of questions, but how do the Ravens replace Earl Thomas? I know DeShon Elliott, the former Texas safety, is expected to fill his shoes, but can he do it? Is he the guy?
So there's a couple things. So let's start with the DeShon Elliott stuff because he's extremely talented, but so far unreliable. Whether or not you want to say he's been bitten by the injury bug, he's missed quite a bit of time here. So we don't know if he's going to be the guy that necessarily steps in and that they can trust and rely on. The other thing they've been doing is they've had Jimmy Smith playing some safety. Now, I mean, that can do a bunch of different things for him as far as looks. They can disguise all types of coverages because he can still play corner as well. So there's a ton of different things that they can do. There's been some rumors out there about maybe kicking the tires on Tony Jefferson again if he's healed up. But right now, primarily, that sounds like their options, either DeShon Elliott or going the route with Jimmy Smith.
Yeah, that's a really interesting take there. I mean, they also got, Geno Stone out of Iowa as a player that Art Data really liked. Going into the draft process last season, they had Brandon Carr playing free safety for over 100 snaps after the Marcus Peters trade. They have a history of sort of taking cornerbacks and having them play and be effective as safeties. The interesting thing with Thomas and Clark is that they combined for over 150 pass rush snaps a season ago. I don't know how they replace that and have the cohesiveness sort of in that back end. Can they trust the young safeties if they're continuously bringing, amongst the most, number of pass rushers in the league?
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, Don Martindale sends defensive backs to the quarterback at a higher rate than anyone in the NFL. You can't just worry about replacing Earl Thomas playing deep. You also have to get a guy in there that can rush the passer. I think their best option is to move Jimmy Smith to play some deep reps, especially on passing downs, because Marlon Humphrey, as fantastic as he was in the slot, is a very good outside cornerback as well. Having that versatility is huge for that Ravens defense. A little bit more on DeShon Elliott, earned 80-plus PFF coverage grades for 3 years at Texas, but hasn't seen the field enough to really get a large enough sample size just how good he is in the NFL. Moving forward, Jeremy, back to you. What do you think Earl Thomas has left? What can he offer his next team?
See, so I filled in and I did the morning show this week, and we had a little bit of a disagreement because I still think Earl Thomas is good. But when we signed him, we thought he was the best safety in the league, and clearly we didn't see that here. I still think there's a little bit there, but it's a team that's going to give him a chance because I'm not comparing Earl Thomas to Antonio Brown, but I feel like there were a lot of things that went on behind the scenes that were covered up here. For the Ravens to get rid of him just like that after one little spat at training camp with Chuck Clark doesn't seem like that would be them, especially if they're going to eat roughly $15 million in dead money. So I still think he has a lot left, and depending on what team wants to take a chance on him, I think he's really talented. He does seem to be an I, me, my guy, but if you can deal with that, you're probably going to get still a pretty talented player at 31.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, he was a top 20 player at his position last year in terms of WAR. He was a top, 10-5 player in terms of not allowing yards per coverage snap. At the free safety spot, he was also pretty effective in the slot. He's a good football player. He's not the elite level safety that was sort of leading the Legion of Boom. I think if he's going to be effective, he has to go to a place kind of like Baltimore where there's a lot of pieces in place and the team isn't exactly requiring him to be everything to everyone.
Yeah, I don't think he's that much of an I, me, my guy. I heard he shares a few things, but with Earl Thomas, what he has left, I think it comes down to I think he has a ton of talent left on the football field. Has still earned 85.0 plus PFF coverage grades over the past few years. It's mentally, and I think it's what you spoke to, Jeremy. I think it's this off the field stuff, this behind the scenes stuff that's not going to allow him to be the best player he can be. Because on the field, strictly speaking, for what he can do in between the whistles, he's one of the best safeties in the NFL still, in my opinion. But I don't know if he can do it off the field and maintain that ability. Last question here. What is the best landing spot for Earl Thomas?
I mean, that's the funny thing, right? Because, even going back to the Seattle days when he chased down Jason Garrett in the corridor to say, hey, come get me, everybody assumes it's going to be the Cowboys, needing help on that side of the ball. But I guess this is a weird time for it to happen. So every team needs to take a good look in the mirror and say, first off, can we fit him financially? Secondly, what is it going to take to get that done? And then, looking at it to see a fit for our team. But I think the Cowboys make sense. I mean, there's a couple of teams that could use help in the secondary, but again, what's it going to cost to bring them in?
Yeah, for me, I have to look at a team like Houston, who has over 21 million in cap space. They're a team that a season ago traded or acquired 2 former first-round picks during the middle of the season. Now, this isn't the middle of the season, but it is close enough to it where they're a team that looks like that they're going to be aggressive. They're a contender. He's from Texas, so that would be a place for him to go. It doesn't look like they're interested from all reports, but they should be, in my estimation. The second worst defense in the league a season ago in terms of wins above replacement in the secondary. So they're obviously one. Seattle would have a really good 3 safety nickel package if they were to reacquire him. I think the Eagles too, with losing Malcolm Jenkins. I think there's some leadership void there, even with Rodney McLeod still there. So there's not that many places where he would go and fit in right away, but those are some places I think that could use him.
I think Dallas is an obvious answer. That's where he's been linked to a ton. I also think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have a very young secondary in the NFL right now at corner and at safety, getting a veteran presence like Earl Thomas, if he can still be that leader he was in previous years, I think would be huge for them. And if this off-field stuff is really getting to him and affecting his play, I also think the Patriots would make sense. And I know they have depth at safety. They have a ton of talent in the secondary, but adding him as a rotational piece with Bill Belichick at the helm, I think you could get the best out of Earl Thomas in Foxborough.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.